Emma, all you can see is the chaos of your life. Darkness is staring you in the face. There's not enough light to cast even the smallest of shadows. Your thoughts of staying high consume you in a way that you will do anything or hurt anyone to fulfill them. The hurts of your past are pushing you further into your addiction, but the hurt you're causing yourself and the ones who love you are keeping you in your addiction. You feel alone, you feel lied to, you feel stuck, even though you know you have so much life in front of you. I know you may not believe this, but there's hope for a beautiful life. Jesus is calling you, even in your darkness, and his hand is all over your life. You will live a life filled with the gifts of God. You will become the woman, the daughter, sister, the friend, the wife, and the mother that God has purposed you to be. You will put in the work with the Lord, and you will live the life you prayed for. My childhood wasn't the greatest childhood. We didn't have a lot of money, and my dad overspent a lot of the times. It was difficult. My parents were stressed a lot. And then when I was 8 years old was when the sexual abuse started with my dad. Through all of that, I struggled with depression a lot, self-harm in incredibly intense ways, and just never told anyone what was going on in my life. And so I tried to, do things the right way. I played tennis for 7 years. I was captain of varsity for 3 years. I did lots and lots of acting, competitive acting. I did, musicals and plays and things like that. And for a while, that was very helpful for me that I could live someone else's life, right, and find joy in that. But it obviously didn't last long. So my 16th birthday, I was invited out to a party, and they were smoking weed, and I tried it for the first time, and it did for me what everything else was never able to do, which was just kind of block my life out. And so senior year of high school was like the biggest year of my mess. I was high all the time. My parents had separated when I was a junior in high school, and that was the first time that I had tried methamphetamine, was when I was a senior in high school. And a good friend of mine said, he actually pleaded with me. He was like, please don't do this without me, because I know it's going to take you down a dark path. And he was right. I totally did it without him and wanted to prove him wrong. And it just, it took me down really fast. It was my first year in college, and I was using meth daily. And within 6 months, I'd had 2 jobs. I had an apartment, a car, all the things. Within 6 months of using, I lost all of those things. And I was in a very toxic relationship with someone who made every decision for me. Which is not like me at all. I have opinions. I'm respectful of others, but I do have opinions of my own, right? And so in the mornings, I would go take a shower and come back, and like my outfit was laid out for me. Like it was to that degree that I made no decisions for myself. And we ended up doing a string of 12 burglaries. So I have 4 felonies on my record. I've been to jail 3 times. And spent a lot of time in jail for those felonies. And so it's hard to believe when you look at me, like you burglarize homes, and I work a professional job now where people give me their credit card numbers freely, and I'm trusted with that. And it's a beautiful thing to know that God has taken what I've done and he is using me now for other ways. So I, at 2 points in my life, had run away from the law, run away from my family. I hadn't told anyone that I'd left, and no one knew where I was. And it was the second time that I had done that, and I always told myself I was never going to use needles when using meth. I was never going to shoot up ever. And if I ever did, it was going to be the last time that I ever used. And that was an unfortunate truth for me. Fortunate, but unfortunate. I had allowed someone else to shoot me up, and they overdosed me, and they left me in a house for 3 days. I was asleep for 3 days, and when I woke up, there was no one there. I was in the same exact spot that I was when they shot me up, and it was incredibly scary. And it was one of the darkest moments, probably the darkest that I'd been in. And so I reached out to a friend of mine, and she helped me come home. I had been in California. I wasn't ready to change at the time, but it only took about a day. And I had warrants out for my arrest because I had felonies on my record. And had absconded from probation, and so she called the cops as soon as I landed in Minnesota, basically, and I got arrested in an Applebee's parking lot in Bloomington.
I love that. That's the funny part.
It is the funny part because who gets arrested at Applebee's? Anyways, I was in the parking lot of Applebee's and I got arrested. And as soon as they brought me into the Hennepin County Jail, I realized like I didn't have to be that person anymore. And the Lord had used all of that up until that point. He had stripped every single person out of my life. I had no one but healthy people to reach out to. And so it was my best friend from college who helped me home, and her family helped me. And I just called her when I got to jail and I said, thank you. And I was crying. And she was like, I didn't think I would ever hear from you ever again. Like, I thought that this was the end of our friendship. I'm like, you helped save my life. And so when I was in jail, I was going to the Bible studies, and there was a gal who was reading, and I was across from her, and she's reading in the Bible, and then she stops and she just looks me right in the face, and she's like, you're going to go to Teen Challenge, and God's going to change your life, and you're going to become the woman that you were purposed to be. And I was so freaked out because no one had ever like spoken to me that way. The Holy Spirit hadn't reached me in that way before. And so I was like, okay, well, can we get back to what we were doing? Because this is really awkward. And I was in jail in Alexandria, Minnesota, and someone from the Brainerd Teen Challenge came in like 2 days later. And I did not sign up to go to that. And the jail programmer then, she was like, let's go. You're going with me. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. She's like, well, I could lock you in your cell if you want. I'm like, I'm going with you. I would enjoy that very much. So I went, and I was the only woman in the room. It was like lined with guys, and I was just sitting right in front of the door, like, you know, away from everyone. And he was talking to everyone face forward, and he had to turn very awkwardly to the right to speak to me. And he just kept looking me right in the eye while he was talking the whole time. And at the end, he asked if anyone wanted an application, and I did not say yes, but he handed me one. And, you know, I ended up filling it out. You know, the Holy Spirit met me in my cell, and I filled it out and came to Teen Challenge, and it helped me change my life. A physical weight was lifted off my shoulders when I came here. And it's so funny because there's people I went through the program with that I still talk to today, and their recollection of me being here was that I just had like a straight face all the time. I looked mad. It seemed like I didn't want to be here, which is totally the opposite of who I am. And I mean, that's what meth does to you, right? It just turns you inside out. And so, they're like, you just looked like you didn't want to be here. And I just remember the feeling of, this is the only place I want to be. It's the only place I want to be. And I felt so free being here, knowing that I didn't have to be whoever I was pretending to be in all the other years of my life, that I could just start over. I remember being with my counselor, and it was like 6 months into the program. And she asked me, she's like, are you ready to forgive your dad yet? And it was just that moment that the Lord met me. And he was like, this is what I have for you. Like, there's so much freedom in forgiveness. And so I wrote my dad a letter, and I asked the Holy Spirit to help me, because if I wrote it, it was not going to be very kind or loving. And so it was definitely led by the Lord. And I sent it to him. And again, another physical weight just lifted off my shoulders, like just handing the letter over to someone who could mail it for me. That's like when it happened. And I felt free to share what had happened to me, with my family, and because they never knew. And so I think just that process of taking time to look at who I was and take responsibility for the things that I did, but still be able to forgive the people that harmed me, it just brought freedom in a way that you don't get in everyday life. You don't just get to spend time asking the Lord those things and like allowing him to change those things about you. I loved working here. I loved that I could show that sobriety can be fun, and that Jesus is fun. Jesus is really fun. And if you're not having fun with Jesus, then I don't think you're like in a great place with him, because he's so fun, and he can just change everything about you if you let him. You get to see those moments shift. So even though you see that the dark parts of people, you're also a front row seat listening and watching when those moments click and when Jesus just clicks, and you see people physically, mentally, emotionally change in front of you, and watching them come in through the doors, and you're doing their intake and you're like, sister, I am glad you are here because you need help. And then they leave and you're like, I cannot wait to see what God is going to do in your life, because they just want to leave and serve people. And that's what it's a form of discipleship, being a recovery coach. If you've tried everything else, then why wouldn't you give Jesus a shot? You know, if everything else in your life hasn't worked, then what do you have to lose? And in all honesty, like, all you have to do is gain something. And it can be hard because in your addiction, you can't see past what's right in front of you. So I've often shared this with lots of people, not just clients, but specifically when I was working here, I would say your life is like a really busy, dark, weird circus, and you're in the middle of it. So the only things that you can see and hear are all of the things that are going on around you. And if you've ever been to a really busy circus, it's like, I don't even know where to look next because it's just overload. But getting sober, and not just getting sober, but having a relationship with Jesus Christ, is like going to the hill right next to it, where you can stand on top and you can look down and you can see how every aspect is moving and changing. And that's when you get perspective on how you can change your life the best.